Let me tell you a story about something that I still don't understand. The fire crackled, throwing wild, twitching shadows against the trunks of the towering pines. We were 6 in total. Me, Riley, Tom, Jess, Marcus, and Ellie. Old friends, reunited after years apart, trying to relive the camping trips of our teenage days. Only now, the forest seemed different, older, hungrier. The night had fallen fast, too fast. The air smelled of wet bark and something else. Iron, maybe. The kind of scent that doesn't belong to trees. Riley was telling one of his trademark ghost stories. His flashlight under his chin for effect. It was the local one, the Hollow Man. A figure that supposedly appeared when the wind stopped. No footsteps, no face, just a silhouette in the mist. They sat. He comes for those who don't listen when the forest tells them to leave. Jess laughed it off, tossing another log into the fire. The sparks shot upward, like fireflies escaping the earth. But when the flames rose, for just a second, I thought I saw someone. No, something, standing between the trees, still, watching. I blinked. Gone. Probably just the smoke and the flicker. Still, my skin prickled. Later, as we zipped ourselves into our tents, the forest began to whisper. The wind moved strangely, not rustling through the leaves, but between them, like a voice trapped in the canopy. Then, a scream, sharp, close, then silent. We scrambled out with our flashlights, shouting for Marcus. His tent was open, his sleeping bag torn halfway. Out, his boots were still there, untouched. No footprints, no sign of struggle, just a long, wet trail of pine needles leading deeper into the forest. And the wind had stopped. We followed the trail with our flashlights trembling in our hands. The beam barely reached 10 feet ahead. Beyond that, the forest swallowed everything. The air was thick, almost wet with fog. Every step felt like it was sinking into something alive. Ellie kept whispering Marx's name, her voice shaky. No response. Tom tried to sound rational. Maybe he went to, look for firewood, he said. But even he didn't believe it. His voice cracked halfway through the sentence. Then we found it. Marcus's flashlight, half buried in the mud, still on, its beam pointing at a tree trunk. The bark was stripped bare, deep grooves running down like claw marks and carved into the firewood. In a trembling hand were 3 words. It follows sound. We all froze. No one spoke. Not even the forest dared to move. Then a branch snapped behind us. Riley spun his light towards the sound. Nothing, just fog. Another snap. Closer. Ellie's breath hitched. It's moving around us, she whispered. Tom shouted, Marcus, is that you? The woods answered with silence. And then whispered, soft, inhuman, like dozens of voices murmuring under the soil. The temperature dropped. I could see my breath. We turned back towards camp, but the fire was gone. No smoke, no embers, nothing but empty clearing. Our tents were there, but the forest felt rearranged, like we'd stepped into the same place in a different world. Then faintly, from the direction of Marcus's tent, came the sound of breathing. Slow, wet, right behind the fabric. Ellie took a step forward. Don't, I hissed, but she pulled the flap open, and inside, sitting upright in Marcus's sleeping bag, was a shape wearing his clothes. The skin was wrong, stretched too thin, and it was smiling. Then it whispered in Marcus's voice, why didn't you listen? Ellie screamed, stumbling backward, her flashlight hitting the ground and rolling away. The figure in the tent didn't move. It just sat there, head tilted, grin splitting impossibly wide. Riley grabbed her arm and pulled her back as Tom zipped the tent shut in one panicked motion. What the hell was that? He shouted, voice cracking into something between terror and disbelief. But before I could answer, we heard it again, that whisper, this time closer, all around us. It wasn't just one voice, it was hundreds, layers of murmurs, men, women, children, all blending into a language that wasn't quite human. The words weren't clear, but the tone was unmistakable. Mocking. Jess clutched my arm. It's copying us, she whispered. Those aren't echoes. We stood in a circle, flashlight shaking, our shadows warping across the trees like ink bleeding through paper. And then the forest went silent. Not a breeze, not a single leaf moving. Even the insects had stopped. That's when I remembered Riley's story, the local legend. When the wind stops, the hollow man appeared. Tom laughed nervously. You guys are seriously freaking me out. He didn't finish. Something tall and thin moved between the trees, faster than our eyes could track. Our light caught it for just a fraction of a second. A silhouette shaped like a man, but wrong. Its limbs were too long, its heads hollow. Not missing, but sunken inward, like the face had been poured into itself. Riley whispered, "Don't move." But Ellie was crying, sobbing. The sound echoed through the forest like a flare in the dark. The thing turned, and then the whispers screamed. All at once, the air filled with noise. A hurricane of voices, laughter, and sobbing, layered over each other. Our lights flickered violently. I grabbed Ellie's hand. Run. We tore through the trees, branches slashing at our hands and faces. Our breath clouding in the cold air. I could hear something moving behind us, impossibly fast, gliding through the forest floor like smoke. We reached the creek, the one that wound past the edge of the camp. Riley stumbled into the water, gasping. It doesn't cross running water. Old legends said that. But when I turned to look, I saw it standing on the opposite bank, still watching. The water between us churned with mist. Then I realized something horrible. It wasn't one shape. It was 6, each one shaped like us, each one standing in the same positions we were, and one of them, mine, was smiling back at me. For a moment, none of us breathed. The sound of the creek rushing between us was the only thing keeping reality tethered together. The figures across the water mirrored us perfectly. Our postures, our fear, even the trembling of our flashlights, except they didn't move with us. They moved just after. A half-second delay, like watching yourself on a broken screen. Ellie whispered, What are those things?" Riley's voice shook. "They're us. Or they're what it wants us to think we are." Jess pointed. "Look. Yours is smiling." She was right. My reflection's mouth curled wider, twitching unnaturally, splitting the skin around its lips until dark liquid dripped down its chin. It lifted a finger, my finger, and pressed it to its hollowed face. Shh. The forest felt silent again. Behind us, a low groan echoed through the trees, long, deep, and wet, like the forest itself was breathing. Tom stepped back. "We need to get out of here, right now." We followed the creek downstream, praying it would lead to the trail. The fog clung to the water, swallowing our legs as we moved. I kept glancing behind us, half expecting those reflections to follow, but they didn't. Not exactly. Every time I looked, they were closer to the water's edge. It was Jess who first noticed the change. "The moon's gone," she whispered. She was right. The light filtering through the pines had vanished. The sky, completely black. Even our flashlight seemed weaker, their beams struggling to pierce the air. Ellie stumbled. Suddenly, something grabbed me. We turned our lights to her leg. Nothing there. But her jeans were wet, darker than the creek water. A handprint, muddy, clawed. She started to hyperventilate. It's under the water. The creek exploded upward. A pale hand shot out, grabbing Riley's ankle and dragging him down. The splash swallowed his scream. We rushed to him. But when the water cleared, all that remained was his flashlight, rolling lazily in the current. Ellie began to sob uncontrollably. Jess tried to pull her up the bar, but the ground beneath them caved in like a sinkhole. Roots snapped, earth shifted. I grabbed Tom's arm, pulling us both higher. Don't stop. Run. The forest ahead warped in the darkness. Trees twisted toward us, branches like arms. Reaching down, the whispering started again. But this time, it wasn't random. It was saying our names. And underneath it all, faint but growing louder, a simple voice called from the creek behind us. Guys, it's me, Riley. We turned. Riley stood ankle deep in the water, drenched, shaking, but smiling. Only something was wrong. The water around his legs wasn't rippling, and his reflection wasn't moving at all. Riley, Ellie's voice cracked. She took a step forward before I could stop her. He smiled wider, his teeth too, white in the dark. It's okay. I'm fine. You don't have to run anymore. The way he said it. Too calm. Too smooth. Sent a chill crawling up my spine. Riley was always the loud one, the first to panic. Not this. Mannequin version standing perfectly in the current. Tom whispered, "That's not him." Riley's head twitched towards Tom. The sound of the cracking bones echoing softly. "Tom," he said, "you shouldn't say that." And then he moved, not walked, slid. His body glided through the water towards us, the surface never breaking. His movements didn't ripple. didn't splash. It was like he was a reflection trying to step out of the mirror. Jess screamed. We ran. Branches whipped across our faces as we tore through the forest. I could hear myself. I could hear something behind us, fast, snapping through the trees like the world was folding in on itself. Every time we looked back, we caught flashes. The glint of teeth, a hollowed face flickering in the dark. Sometimes Riley's, sometimes Marx's, sometimes my own. Ellie tripped, tumbling down a slope into a hollow. We scrambled after her and found ourselves in an old clearing. A half-collapsed cabin hidden under vines and rot. Inside, I shouted. We pushed through the warped door and slammed it shut behind us. The smell of the damp wood and mold hit like a wave. Our flashlights cut across the room. Old furniture, covered dust, claw marks etched into the walls. And in the center, something worse. A circle of bones, human, small, burned black. Tom gagged. Jesus Christ. Ellie was sobbing. We have to get out. Please, we have to. But Jess froze, pointing at the wall. Look. Carved into the wood above the fireplace, faint under the grime, were words written over and over again in the same jagged hand. The forest remembers its own. A sound came from outside, slow footsteps circling the cabin. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Tom peered through a crack in the wall, flashlight trembling. It's Riley, he whispered. He's standing right there. Don't look, I hissed, but it was too late. Riley's face appeared in the gap, pressed flat against the wood. Eyes black, smile stretching ear to ear. Let me in, he crooned, voice distorted like something echoing from underwater. It's cold out here. The door creaked once, twice. The handle turned. Tom grabbed a broken chair leg and raised it like a weapon. If he comes through that door, I swear to God. Bang. Something hit the wall hard. Then another bang. The whole cabin shook. The door hinges groaned, splinters flying. Ellie screamed. He's breaking in. And then silence. We held our breath. Nothing. Then a whisper right behind me. Why are you hiding from yourself? I spun. There, in the faint glow of my flashlight, stood me, pale, blood around the mouth, eyes hollow, smiling. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. My own face, pale, bloodied, hollow-eyed, stood there, feet in front of me, illuminated by the weak beam of my trembling flashlight. It smiled with my mouth, a twitching, broken imitation of what a smile should be. Tom swung the chair leg. It passed straight through the thing, like slicing smoke. The air rippled, and the copy of me flickered. Gone. Then back, now grinning wider. Jess screamed. It's copying us again. It's trying to. Her words choked off. We turned just in time to see her reflection step out of the shadow beside the fireplace, moving in eerie synchronization. Every blink, every twitch, identical, except the reflection's eyes were black as tar. The whispers started again, louder this time, echoing from inside the walls. Join us, join us, join us. Ellie clutched her head. It's in my mind. It's in my head. Make it stop. I grabbed her shoulders. Ellie, listen to me. Don't. Then the floor gave way. The boards splintered beneath us, and we dropped into darkness. Dust and rot filled the air. I hit the ground hard. Dirt, stone, and something brittle that snapped under my hand. Bone. We were in the basement. Riley's voice floated down from above, warped and slow. Don't hide, the forest remembers. We scrambled for our flashlights. Mine flickered to life, casting a weak circle of light across the floor. Bones, hundreds of them, some small, some not. And on the far wall, scrawled in something dark and half faded, was a single word repeated over and over. Remember. Jess sobbed quietly. Tom knelt beside the bones, hands shaking. These are all people. What the hell happened here? I looked closer at the carvings on the wall. Some were names, dozens of them, carved deep, but the last one was unfinished. The letters jagged halfway through. R-I-L. Riley. Before I could process it, a sound echoed through the hole above us. A dragging, wet shuffle. And then Riley's voice, calm, closer now. I remember now. We looked up, just as something pale and twisted dropped down into the darkness with us. It wasn't Riley anymore. Not even close. The shape hit the ground with a wet thud. Our flashlights scattered across the dirt, beams slicing through the dark in trembling arcs. For one disorienting second, I saw a pale arm twitch, then another, before the thing rose slowly, unfolding itself like a spider stretching after sleep. Riley, Ellie whimpered, but that thing only tilted its head, joints cracking, water dripping from its face. No, not water. The smell hit next. Copper, rot, and soil. Blood mixed with mud. Tom grabbed my sleeve, whispering, "It's not him. It's not anyone." The creature's chest heaved once, like it was trying to breathe through lungs that didn't belong to it. Then it spoke, a perfect imitation of Riley's voice, overlaid with hundreds of others. "You came back to us." The lights flickered. Jess screamed as the beam caught the thing's face, or what was left of it. The skin looked stitched together, pieces of Riley, Marcus, and someone else I didn't recognize. A patchwork of memories given flesh. The whispers grew louder, and for the first time, I realized they weren't coming from the air. They were rising from the ground. The bones around us began to shift, one by one. Skulls rolled over in the dirt, empty eye sockets turning toward the sound. "Run," I yelled. We bolted for the stairs, but the rotted steps crumbled under Tom's weight. He fell backward into the pit of bones, his flashlight spinning wildly before going out with a crunch. Jess and I grabbed Ellie and scrambled up the remnants of the ladder. My heart felt like it would burst through my ribs. Behind us, the whispers turned into screams. Not words. Memories. "Don't leave me. It hurts. Why didn't you listen?" Each voice sounded like someone we'd known. We burst through the trapdoor into the cabin above, slamming it shut behind us. Ellie collapsed, sobbing, clutching her knees. Jess pressed her back against the wall, hyperventilating. Then, the trapdoor knocked. Once. Twice. We froze. It wasn't the creature. It was Tom's voice. "Guys, please. It's me." Ellie moved for the latch, tears streaming down her face. I grabbed her wrist. "That's not him." She shook her head violently. "You don't know that." Before I could stop her, she pulled open the door. Tom's face stared up at us. Pale. Eyes wide, as something dragged him back into the dark with an inhumane scream. The trapdoor slammed shut on its own. We backed away slowly, our flashlights flickering again. That's when Jess whispered, "We're not supposed to leave." I turned to her. "What?" She pointed at the wall. The carvings, the ones that said, "The forest remembers its own," were changing. New words burned themselves into the wood, one letter at a time. "Those who enter must stay." And underneath, in fresh, dripping red, were our names. The air in the cabin grew thick, warm, almost wet, like the forest was breathing through the cracks in the walls. The words carved into the wood glistened fresh and red. Those who enter must stay. Jess began to laugh. The kind of laugh that's too close. It's crying. It's writing our names. It's writing our names. I grabbed her by the shoulders. Jess, look at me. We're getting out of here. But Ellie was staring at the dark. Her voice came out flat. There's no out. It's already taken us. Outside, the whispers turned to chanting. Hundreds of voices, moving in perfect rhythm. They circled the cabin like a ritual. I looked through a crack in the boards and froze. The forest was alive. The trees were moving, bending inward. Their roots crawling across the ground toward us like veins. And standing among them were shapes, familiar ones. Marcus, Riley, Tom, and us. All 6 of us, reflected in the hollow. Twisted mockeries. Each one was smiling. Then the chanting stopped. The door creaked open on its own. A wind swept through the cabin, but it wasn't cold. It was pulling. The air itself tugged at us, dragging dust, leaves, and pieces of the floor towards the open threshold. The hollow man stood there, taller now, his limbs stretching into the dark. His chest was open, and inside it, things moved. Faces, voices, memories, hours. Jess screamed and lunged forward with a shard of wood, stabbing at him. But it passed right through. The air rippled, and for a heartbeat, the hollow man looked just like her. Then, like me. Then, like all of us at once. Ellie whispered, "He's not real. None of this is real." The hollow man turned his hollow face toward her. "Then why can't I remember you?" The wind intensified, pulling harder. I grabbed Ellie's hand, but she was slipping away. her body dragging toward that impossible dark chest. Jess tried to hold on too, but the air swallowed her scream, and then all at once, silence. The wind stopped. The chanting faded. None of this was real. None of this ever even happened. I was by myself. I was alone. The cabin was empty, except for the carvings where our names had been. Now there were 6 perfect etchings, the letters clean, sharp, final, and underneath them a new one appeared, burning itself into the wood. It remembers. The forest outside was calm. Birds chirped. The morning light leaked through the windows. It was as if nothing had ever happened. I stumbled outside, dazed, walking through the dew-soaked clearing toward the creek. No bodies, no blood, except it wasn't moving. It smiled first and whispered, "You stayed." They found my car a week later, parked at the trailhead. The rangers said no one should have been camping. No one at all. But the 6 of us didn't listen. We should have never camped that deep into Black Hollow. Over the years, many had disappeared. There were too many disappearances. Sometimes, when the wind stops in the middle of the night, I swear I hear them calling from the trees. I swear I hear them calling out my name. Marcus Riley, Marcus Riley, Tom, me, Jess. 6 voices whispering together. The 6 of us remembers. The forest remembers its own